Hello again, you're back. Right, well, if I hadn't scared you off with those exercises last time, well, that's great. I'm amazed that you've come back. But anyway, we're going to get cracking with another 5 MFR exercises. So we're going to start with one of the most important areas, which is the gluteus maximus, so your butts basically. Now, this can be a bit of a tricky one to release. This is often the most uncomfortable position for many people. So first I'm going to show you kind of the textbook position that you want to get into, and then I'm going to give Chris's adapted position, which was for a bit more comfort and also to so that you can be able to do it at home, because not many people have got balls like this size. I don't mean metaphorically, but literally. So we're going to start by sitting on it like that on one side, and you're going to pop your leg up on your knee and then just sit on it. Again, this will be super painful, I almost guarantee that, and again you just kind of want to find those really painful areas and just sit on it, quite literally. So if you don't have a medicine ball like I've got here, a small medicine ball, you can use like a football or any kind of ball that's reasonably hard. It doesn't have to be as hard as a medicine ball. It can actually be a bit softer, and it will still have quite an effect. So as you can see, this is not super comfortable, and I never really enjoyed doing this release this way. I felt like it put too much pressure on my shoulders, and if you've got bad shoulders, if you have rotator cuff issues, I wouldn't recommend getting in this position. So after another few seconds in this position, I'll show you my adapted position for the gluteus maximus. Now, this will also be getting your piriformis. So when you put your foot up on your knee like this, it kind of opens up that area so you can access your piriformis. Now, this is often responsible for the pain that goes down your leg, like sciatic pain that goes down your leg, as it quite often pinches on the sciatic nerve. So if you've got that kind of pain, this is a good one to release too. It's something called piriformis syndrome. So this will get the gluteus maximus and the piriformis. So just find that tricky area and just roll on it. This isn't very painful for me anymore, but yeah, it will be painful for you. Okay, so like I said, even I'm starting to feel this in my shoulders now. So let's try the other, the adapted version of this one. So the adapted version looks a bit like the gluteus medius release, isn't it? And indeed you can actually combine the two if you like. I often do that. So again, starting in this area, shuffle in front of the camera a bit more. Starting in this area, you rock onto it just like you do with the gluteus medius, but this time you're going to go onto your back, keeping this leg out like that, and then just moving it all around the glute area. You might have to adapt your position a bit for this one. Again, just hold on the sore bits. As you can see, I'm just kind of fairly chilled here. One leg bent, and then the other leg out. So you've still got that kind of angle that you had before. And if you want, you can try just putting your foot up like that. But I actually quite like it on the floor. And I find this quite a pleasant release now. It's quite nice to get into this area. And again, about 2 minutes. So the time in 2 minutes. I'm going to do it basically here. Keep on forgetting to do my watch. Again, I'm really doing rough timing myself. I very rarely time myself for 2 minutes. So I'll just, I'll hit an area, and then when I feel like it's done, it's done. But the only problem is when you first start, it can be quite painful kind of everywhere, so you can kind of feel like it's never done. So that's why I'm saying 2 minutes, but however long you want to do it for, really. But 1 minute just isn't really enough. On finding those funny areas. Again, I'm probably going to have to move this a bit quicker than you guys to find funny area or a painful area, and just hold on it. Then you may get the shaking, you may get that sinking into the muscle a little bit, the melting feeling, and possibly some further pain down the leg for this one. As I said, most people's glutes are not functioning particularly well. They're quite inhibited just because of your posture and the way you move. So this probably will be sore. Okay, well, that's enough on that one. Alright, so then we're going to move to more of the back line. We call this the superficial back line. So it's the connection of all the muscles and fascia like I was talking about last time. So we're going to focus on the back line of your legs here. So we're going to start with the glutes, and now we're going to go to the hamstrings. Again, I'm going to show you two ways to do this one. So we'll start off with the right leg, kind of the most simple way, which is like this. So start off to what we call the gluteal fold. So imagine looking at yourself in the mirror butt naked. So this is where your kind of butt finishes and your legs start, in that little fold there between the two. So you're going to start up there with a bit of a bent leg, like that. Try and make sure that your posture is reasonably good. You don't want to be hunching over like this. Sometimes I do this against a wall so that you can make sure that you're standing up, that you're sitting up straight. And then just find those painful bits. Try not to over straighten the leg too much here. I have found that this can make people a bit tender because putting a ball in this area kind of like overstretches the muscle a little bit. So now if your hamstrings are quite tight, they're already quite tight when you put your leg straight. So that when you stick a ball on it as well, under the hamstring, you're obviously going to make the hamstring even shorter and tighter when you stick the ball on. So it will feel almost like you can almost overstretch this area by sticking the ball on it. So just take care of that a little bit. So have a little soft bend in your leg and then slowly ease your way into it. And again, we're kind of doing a little bit to the side, but not much. This is almost going straight down, again towards the knee. So again, you just pick yourself up, like that. Quite often the ball gets caught up in your shorts when you're doing a lot of these exercises. So just kind of get them out, start it again. Try and keep your feet and your knees nicely in line as well. This has always been an area where I've found not too much of a problem, so I don't release this one very often. But you might have very tight hamstrings, so yes, you might need to release them a fair bit. But again, be a little bit careful with this one, not to get that overstretch. So if you're feeling like your hamstrings are really tight, just soften the knee and ease into it slowly, so don't get into it with a nice straight leg, plonk straight down on the ball. You can overstretch those hamstrings. You just move this with your hands. Okay, right, on the other side then I'll show you the other way to do this. So I think it's better on a chair to do this exercise, but it kind of depends what kind of chair you've got. So this chair is quite deep, but it's not a very hard surface, so this isn't a great one to do it on. So all you do is you stick it under the leg like you were doing. This time your leg's perfectly bent, so it's bent like that, and then you just straighten it. And this actually isn't too bad, even though this chair isn't particularly hard. So you find a bit, let it settle into the muscle, and then straighten the leg. We call this like an active release. So a lot of massage therapists will do things like active releases. It can be difficult to do on your own though. This is one of the few that you can do. Just up and down, find a new spot. Let it settle in with your leg bent, and then straighten it again. Try and keep a decent posture. It's easy to forget that. And just find the sore areas. Just like that. Again, about 2 minutes aside. Out of the way. Right, so let's go side on for this one as well. We're going to do the calves now. Again, you can do this up against the wall. I find this much nicer to do up against the wall, but just showing you this way, just for convenience. So this one's kind of a nice easy one. It's often fairly pleasant. It may be a bit sore, but again, as we're now moving away from these areas, it isn't quite as sore. So we're going to start here, just on the calf, and then you're going to move to the medial calf, which just means on the inside, and the lateral calf, which just means the outside, like that. And you're just working all around that calf. This one's a bit of a tricky one for me due to my varicose veins, so I tend to stay quite lateral on the outside of this calf. I can't really go on the inside very well. But hopefully you can just move on the inside, move on the outside. You can move this one around a bit more. Just find the sore spots. Again, you can just use your hands to move the ball down towards your Achilles. And you're basically moving this inside and outside all around the calf until you get to the point of about your Achilles tendon, and then you won't be able to roll it there, and it will just slip off the side. Found this one quite a pleasant and relaxing release. If you want to make it a little bit more severe, you can pop your leg on top like that. Alright, just switch to the other side. Switch to this side. So as I mentioned, there is a little bit of a nerve that runs down kind of the back into the side of the calf. You probably won't get it if you're just releasing your calf like this. You can release something called your perineals, which is right on the outside, the lateral calf, where you have to go down to the side like this. It's kind of like in your ITB area. That's where you might hit it. But don't worry about that release just yet. That one's much further down the line. Just focus on the calf here. Now you're probably not going to have a super painful calf, so you can use a hard ball for this one, I think. You might want to try with a tennis ball first, but I think you can go to a hard ball quite quickly on this one. Definitely on the previous one, the hamstrings, I'd start with a tennis ball, and then if it's not at all painful, then you move on to a harder ball. The ball I've got is like a practice cricket ball without the seam, but you can use a hockey ball or a lacrosse ball, or anything that's hard, basically, and about this size. Softball is also pretty good. It's a bit bigger, but will still do a good job. All the way down, and then if I just show you very quickly, once you get to the Achilles tendon area, you can just about release it here, but you can't move it around very much. So you don't go much lower than that. So not all the way down to here, because obviously you see it slips off straight away. Okay, 2 more to go in this session. So the first one's going to be inner thigh. Now, this is very likely going to be stiff. Now, I'm going to put up a myofascial line, one of these ones in these corners, and you'll see that a connection takes place around here. So, if you've got rounded shoulders like this, it's very likely that your pecs are going to be stiff like that. So, remember that often the rounded shoulder problem, as I mentioned in the previous video, often starts at the hip flexors. So it started by making you do this, which then makes you compensate by rounding your shoulders up here. Now, so as you round your shoulders up here, your pecs become quite shortened and tight. So if you can imagine someone that does a lot of bench presses, for example, or a lot of chest work like bodybuilders, they often walk around like this, yeah? So they often walk around with quite hunched shoulders, and that's because these pecs are tight, so they're pulling the shoulders forward like that and causing a bit of a rounded posture in the upper back. Now, because these are tight here, it's very likely that these are going to be tight here. Now, your rectus abdominis, your abdominals, are already connected to your hip flexors on a different myofascial line, so they're going to be tight already. So we've got tight here, tight here, tight here, and then as you'll notice on that myofascial line, that functional myofascial line, you've got your inner thigh muscles here, which are then connected to your rectus abdominis and here. So if this is tight, these are going to be tight as well. So we need to release them. They again can be a painful area. Like all this upper leg area is often quite painful. So we're going to use 2 tools for this one, but you can also just use one. Now there are various different ways to hit this one. Again, a medicine ball is a good way to hit the upper part of your inner thigh, and you do it like this. And we're going to get into this kind of very similar position as normal. This time you're going to pop your leg up on the top of that, right, quite high in your groin to begin with, and just let that settle in. And again, you can move your leg, kind of rotate it that way and rotate it that way, and wiggle it around to find the sore area. That's pretty sore for me in there. Now, if you are short of medicine ball, you can also use a kettlebell to get into this area. I know not too many people have got kettlebells lying around at home, but sometimes gyms don't have these small medicine balls either. So just for future reference, you can also use a kettlebell. But also a football would work well, any fairly hard ball in this area. And then we're going to work that just by shuffling a bit into the mid part of the inner thigh. And you can work this, I'm going to do this quickly for time's sake, but you can work this all the way to just in front of the knee again. But again, the same thing, I might do this a little bit more quickly, but just slowly rotating kind of to the outside part of the inner thigh and then more inside like that. Now, if all you've got is a ball, you can still hit these areas reasonably well. It's obviously going to be difficult to get into that groin area because the ball's not big enough, but you can get probably up to the mid part of the inner thigh there. So if you start quite close to the knee on the inner thigh and just let it settle, and again you just slowly rotate it. You might feel the ball slip between the partitions in the muscle for this one. Get a bit of twitching going on. I find it quite pleasant now. Again, it's probably going to be a bit of a wall of pain to begin with, particularly quite high up towards the knee. It might feel a bit more like a stretch when you've got this ball right up high in the inner thigh area. So I'm going to just try that the other side. Again, aiming for about 2 minutes, but it's completely up to you how long you want to do it for. I'm just doing it with the small ball here, but I usually do coming from the knee up to the middle, or you can go the other way around. It doesn't really matter on this one. So just because I've got the small ball in my hand, I'm doing it this way. And so I'll get up maybe to about here, so I can't really go any further up, and then that's when I'd swap around and use the medicine ball instead, and just pop it higher up like that. So MFR is good to do anytime really. You can do it before you work out, it's not really a problem. I don't tend to do it after I work out because I'm all kind of sweaty and tired and I'm a bit tense, so I tend to do it sometimes before, but also first thing in the morning, like a little bit before I go to bed. I find that's quite a relaxing thing to do before I go to bed. I'll just try and fit in about an hour's myofascial release. Definitely helps you relax. It might not seem so right now, but it does eventually. Okay. All right, one more to go in this session then. And this is just this is going to be a super easy one. So this one doesn't take much explaining. It's going to be your feet. So you just pop the ball down on there. Now I would probably lean up against something. So I'm going to use this chair that I had for the hamstring exercise, and I'm just going to lean onto this ball. This will be pretty tender to begin with. You can also use a golf ball, but I would advise if you use a golf ball not to, for example, put too much weight on it like that. So right now I can put most of my weight on that ball without it really hurting me too much. If you were to do that with a golf ball, I would say that that's going to be a little bit dangerous. You could actually hurt yourself, your plantar fascia there at the bottom of your foot. But this way you'll probably be fine just to even stand on it. You probably won't be able to do it to begin with, that's all. But you don't really need to. Just kind of lean and put as much weight into it as you can tolerate, and just move it all the way around the bottom of the foot. Again, nice and slowly. You can also wiggle your toes a little bit, so bring your toes in and out. There's a bit of an active release there as you're doing it. So maybe you can try this one at home. So if you try it before you do this exercise, or before you do this release, just try and touch your toes, or try and see how far you can go with a hamstring stretch. And then after you've done this release, try it again and see what happens. Apparently, it does make you more flexible in your hamstrings when you do this. The reason for that is, like I said, all these muscles are connected, so this is part of your posterior chain, your plantar fascia. So it connects at the base of your foot, and it goes all the way up through your calf, through your hamstrings, all the way up to the top of your head. So that posterior chain is basically a connected chain of muscle and fascia all together. So if you relieve tension in one area, you'll likely relieve tension in other areas, and it'll make you more flexible. This might be particularly good for people who have got plantar fasciitis. This is something I had a few years ago. Very painful first thing in the morning. I'm sure you've had a range of chronic pain issues, but the more I do things like this, the less I'm feeling Really recently, I haven't had any issues at all, and I can even run. I run every other day now, and that was something that was impossible a few years ago. There are obviously other things that I do, other postural exercises and movement exercises that maybe I'll show you another time. But this is where to start, and this is a great thing that everyone can do. The other ones take a bit more technique. Again, just point the toes up and down and just roll it around. You can roll this around a little bit more quickly, but still quite slowly. We don't want to be doing this. That doesn't really do anything. Okay, session 2 all done. Hope that one was less painful. I'll see you for session 3.